Chapter 13. Sunday afternoon. With Manny confirmed as Meredith, Doreen researched Jenny Pollock's life. There was a son as well as Meredith, and that was the entire family tree. She could see why the mother had always wanted the young daughter to bless her with grandchildren. That might have caused all kinds of trouble. But Meredith had married, and she had had a son, who was now back east, according to Nan. Doreen wrote down the notes and then realized it would be pretty tough to find any answer, because 10 years had passed. And also the fact that somebody didn't just disappear. That was when she stopped. She got up and poured herself a glass of lemonade, then sat back down and opened the scans she'd made. The IDs were all under Meredith's name. And was that because they were government-issued IDs, and she hadn't had an official sex change? How did that work? Doreen knew she wouldn't text those questions to Mac. So she opened up an email and typed out as much or an explanation as she could. And then she hit send. When her phone rang again, she wasn't sure if it was Nan or Mac. She answered it, to hear Nan's voice at the other end. Jenny wants answers but doesn't want to know details. And how do you get one without the other? Doreen asked. She doesn't want anything that'll be upsetting. She doesn't have any idea who Manny's friends were, and she doesn't have any idea who her coworkers were, but she does want to know if Manny is alive or dead. She hasn't had anything to do with him since he took this path. Why would she care now? Doreen asked curiously. Because Jenny is the keeper of the family Bible with the family tree, Nan said pointedly. And I think she wants to make sure she has the correct entries in the Bible. Doreen sat back with a thunk. Nan, that's so cold. It is, Nan said. But Jenny is not exactly a warm and welcoming woman. So you can see how maybe Meredith, feeling like she had no support and no love anyway, might have decided to make the choices she needed to make for her own happiness. We can't judge her for that, Doreen said. We all need to do what's right for ourselves. Exactly, Nan said cheerfully. Which is why you let Mac teach you how to cook. And on that note, she hung up, but her laughter still rang through Doreen's phone long after she was gone. Doreen placed her phone down and shrugged. Was that why she was letting Mac teach her how to cook? She really enjoyed spending time with him. He was also a great source of information, and he'd been a huge help in all areas of her life. Just his assistance in dealing with the antiques was massive alone. Was it wrong of her to build a friendship with him? She hadn't had friends, real friends, ever that she could remember. She'd always been guided to having the right friends. The ones who could take her places. Whereas right now, she liked somebody who treated her normally and was comfortable being themselves around her. Talk about synchronicity, an email came in. She read it out loud. The file mentions that he led an interesting life and was sexually attracted to both sexes. No medical records indicate a sex change had been started or completed, but since we have no body and we just have a missing person report, it's hard to say. So once again, not helpful. She slapped down the lid to her laptop, stood and said, "One thing I do know is I've spent all day without food since breakfast and now I'm starving." And in truth, she'd spent all day pushing the idea of spaghetti out of her mind, so she didn't have a second plate too early. But she was giving up on that idea now. She planned on having a second plate as soon as she could warm it up. Only before she could get to it, the doorbell rang. She groaned. "Okay, this is just way too much company," she announced. But still, she rushed to the front door and opened it. Her neighbor Richard, complete with his grumpy face, stared at her with a glare worse than ever. She raised an eyebrow. "Did you find more stuff?" He shook his head and said, "No, but did you see those people?" She looked over her yard where he pointed, and all kinds of people stood there taking pictures. "No," she said. "I don't understand." She looked around and saw no media vehicles. Nothing to show they were journalists. Then she saw the huge bus parked in the cul-de-sac. Who are they? That's a Japanese tour bus, he said. Now you've hit the big time. We're on their damn tour route. Then, as soon as he said that, he huffed and crossed the front lawn to his place, where he slammed the door hard. And the cameras flashed, catching it all.